Joining us now is a public affairs analyst, Shijibumi Adebi-Bennett. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on
Good
TVC
morning.
Breakfast.
Thanks for having me.
Now, several reactions has trailed this statement by the government on sanitizing the social media space and the media as well. I wonder how it comes to you.
Yes, I think we need to do that. I'm in agreement with what the government wants to do. What I'm not in agreement with is the minister saying it over and over again without a template. And I think for the last time, what he said is still did not still give us like a template, because he just mentioned this has been done in some few countries, mentioned like 2 other countries that those things have been done and that we're going to do it in Nigeria. Having said that, I think, you know, situations in our recent past have made all of us to realize that if we're not careful, it's like we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. 2 days ago, I think yesterday morning, the army came out to say there was nothing like they were going to be having Operation Show Your ID card all over the country. But it was due to someone just sitting in the comfort of his room.
But people brought out that message was from their Twitter page. It was from their Twitter handle.
I didn't see it, and if those things, because what we do in Nigeria, we're very intelligent people. What we do is to try to screen grab and screenshot even before you can pull that down. Yes. So that can be a good evidence, but I've not seen that because I've been trying to follow the story. Then if you can remember the other time too, I'm talking about some very, very key and vital information that could have set the country on.
Like when they said the president was getting married to a second.
That was even a joke. I'm talking about when they said the army laid siege on the home of somebody that was suspended, the chief of the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Nigeria, yes.
And 2 prominent people said that with confirmation, with affirmation. You know, in a country whereby there's still these default lines, the tribal, the religious, and all that, anything could have happened. People have support bases. So when people say these things, before election, I didn't care, because we had people who owned one bank, people turned one place to Dubai. All those things were flying around. This could be, you know, attributed to election propaganda and all that. But when an election has been won and the country is trying to move forward, we should try as much as possible to reduce the spate of all these things. Right. So those are the things that are very, very, and if we don't nip it in the bud now, more important, more serious issues we arise from all these things.
You earlier mentioned about the template that where the federal government has not given a template. If you were to advance the federal government, what form of template would you prefer?
Yeah, for me, I will like to a dissection of, okay, these are conventional media, this is social media. The conventional media should prove, at least make sure that this thing is, confirm. Should always be there to confirm. That's one. Number 2 is, if you bring out a message and in 6 hours or 8 hours you don't get a confirmation and you don't retract, you know, then these are the punitive measures. You know, we have like a template. Don't keep talking about it, because we are speculative people. We could think you are trying to gag the press. So I'm just trying to take 1 or 2 things out of it. But it's very, very, when we have defined rules, we have defined boundaries, everybody will know what it is. Then it becomes a law. But when there is no law, there will be abuse.
All right. Shijibumi Adebi-Bennett, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us now is a public affairs analyst, Shijibumi Adebi-Bennett. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, some arguments have come up as to what exactly constitutes hate speech, because there has been a back and forth in terms of when people express critical views, like we pointed out, it constitutes hate speech, that perhaps the government should define hate speech if it wants to actually tackle issues of fake news and hate speech.
Yes, and I think the government is yet to give us that. But I believe that hate speech will be very difficult to define.
Really?
Why?
Yes,
Why do you think so?
I think because the way you put it out will determine if it is speech. There is a way to tell someone is stupid and he feels is a correction, and there is a way to tell someone that you are not doing things right and he feels is stupid.
But you know,
the approach.
Whatever we put on social media or out there is subject to interpretation, no matter how we decide to put
Yes,
it.
We
that's
deduce
fake.
messages differently.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fake news on its own. But I'm talking about the context of every statement or every write-up you put out there now. So if it doesn't, if it's not exactly, if it's not harmful to someone's reputation or does not denigrate somebody, like directly, I think it will be very difficult to call it a speech. But I like to put it in a whole context of fake news. That's the problem I think we should be facing.
Okay.
What fake news, as in how do we curtail it? And what template can we have
To
That-
curtail.
that's
curtail it?
That's the question now.
And for example, let me give you like the Singaporean situation. We can't go that route, but I think it gives the government, it can give the government a kind of
Template that it can domesticate.
Yes, domesticate. The parliament passed that once you put out an information that the government feels is false,
Government's
that's where the
feeling.
clause is for them.
That's
So
it.
that's why Google and a lot of other people are saying that, but because the discretion is now on the part
Of
of the
government.
government. But that's why I said we cannot follow
Because
that route.
in this same light, the discretion is also on the part of government. That's what it is.
Yes, but that's why I said the template can be made in such a way that it's not just on the part of government.
Who determines hate speech?
Then there can be a committee for that,
Okay.
people to look into that, so that we have like a balance. Because at
But
the
do
end
you
of-
think that achieving a balance in this case will be possible?
it's possible because we also must emphasize the fact that a functional democracy, like the foreign minister said, a functional democracy is based on citizens being informed, not misinformed. So because if you misinform people, it can make them to be deformed people. So it's very, very important that we get this straight. The government sits down. That's why I'm not comfortable with the minister saying every time that they want to curtail it without no clear template about it.
Despite no template, whatever the case, if the government brings out the template or not, can social media be regulated looking at the fact that everyone has an Instagram account, everyone has a Facebook account, everyone has a Twitter account and all of that? Can we actually regulate social media that we do not promote hate speech? Can the
We
government do
can't.
that?
Let's leave out the clause of the discretion of the government in this Singaporean example. It says that when you put something that you cannot confirm, you either correct or take it down. Another problem is it didn't give the time frame.
Time frame, yeah.
So we can learn from that. Put so many other
But
things into
we
it
know that
and have a
it's
time
not
frame.
just Twitter or Instagram that people get fake news from.
Yeah.
WhatsApp
WhatsApp.
is the fastest
Yes.
means.
Quickly.
So what do we do in that aspect? How do we deal with that? Because that is another aspect that has to be
The good
really
thing
checked.
about it is all the platforms are easily traceable. Be WhatsApp. So because when a message gets forwarded, even from your phone, you will know if the person is the initiator of the message or is coming from somewhere else. So that's technology.
How do
for
you get to the initiator? Because there are people who know how to do
It's
this.
technology for you. They know. Countries have done that. They've
Over
gone
time.
ahead over time,
But-
and we're just.
But how
we're
much
just
of
catching up.
this is a challenge for the media in itself? Because journalism is being seen now as there are fake journalists and there are the genuine journalists, and here we are trying to fight issues of fake news. What's the role of the media in itself in checking fake news?
Credit to the conventional media, be it online or terrestrial or what is called. Because I see that in Nigeria, the people that have still given us sanity is the conventional media. If you bring out a story and I don't see it on some apps like this station, for example, I don't see it on print media platforms like some others that are, so that it doesn't become an advert. So I don't believe it. My sister said something yesterday in the house, and I'm like, so you could believe that? And he said people have already been commenting that someone told Donald Trump not to recognize the president of Nigeria. And it's going viral.
Spreads like
yes,
wildfire.
and she saw it on her WhatsApp, and she believed it. So the conventional media should help us to correct all this. Because people still believe, people who want authentic news still believe in the conventional media. So they still go there to source for their news. But when it's on social media, they say, it's on social media, I saw it too. So in as much as there's still investigative journalism, in as much as people are still professional with what they do, they can help us to check all these things.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Shijibomi Adebiyi-Bennett, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, joining us now is a public affairs analyst, Shijibomi Adebiyi-Bennett. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on
Good
TVC
morning.
Breakfast. Now, arguments have arisen as to the role the social media played during the elections in 2014 and 2015. And right now, they have argued that if we say we want to regulate social media, we're saying that the role it played at the time, that it is going to check such activities and have an impact when it comes to issues of elections and decisions, because you see that when there are issues, people make criticisms and then we get results. Oftentimes, these issues are what Nigerians are weary of, that we wouldn't be seeing as much activism on social media if that's the case.
And that's why the government must not leave room for speculations. That's why we have to find a way to get a template across to the people and for people and bring in stakeholders to look at it in the online and offline mediums so that people can look at this template and there will be stakeholders input before this thing.
Who should be these
Yes,
stakeholders? Who should constitute the stakeholders?
Advertisers, media people, TVs, radio. These are the people that, this law is going to affect. So these people should have an input in that. And I can, the last time we talked about the Singaporean model, which was a bit harsh, then I want to compare the Chinese model too, which is very, very, much harsher than that. It's because in 2014, I think they had an issue with earthquake at that time, and people reported anticipated earthquakes. And you know what it means in a country like China.
Yeah.
So, and you know what, people were moving, there was a lot of turmoil and a lot of commotion in that area. So then the Chinese government now, being a socialist government, now banned people from using social media to report any news. And if you wanted to report a political news, you needed to get permission from the government.
Well, they've totally banned Facebook, Instagram, and all of that.
They have their Weibo, they have WeChat and all that, but they banned all those things. So if you want to report a political event or a political story, you needed to get a permission from the government. In 2016, they went a notch further by making sure that if you want to, you don't report any news from social media. So we cannot use those approaches. Maybe the Singaporean or the Chinese approaches. We cannot.
But there's
so
a possibility that the government might want to adopt some of these approaches from Singapore and China and other countries.
That's the fear of people. That's why people are speculative, because when our minister starts talking about something without giving us boundaries, without giving us templates, and I think it's the third time he's talking about it. So people are really thinking, are these conditions not going to be stringent?
And so if there isn't any template at this point,
yes.
Do you think that whatever is put in place would be as effective as the government plans it to be? Because, enforcement is also a major challenge when we come up with policies like this.
That is when we have buy-in of stakeholders, like I said. One thing the Chinese government got right, which is not going to affect anybody, which we can also, utilize, is the fact that online mediums and even private people needed to register with their actual names. So you are registering anything online, it's with your personal name. So you have something online news, use it with your personal name. So you have an address, you have a name.
No, but this is not going to be, it's not limited now, because fake news is not just about mediums now, it's about people.
That's what we're saying.
As well. So most people go disguised, not registering anything in their names.
But do you know that the problem we have in Nigeria now, much of the problem is because of these online platforms. There are many.
Absolutely.
So when people, if I say anything now, unless it's from a prominent person, it doesn't get the kind of buzz that it gets, like, oh, it's on something news. It's on so you Google, then they screen grab, they send to you. So that's the problem. That's where it starts from. Then we can also go a notch further by making sure that people register with their personal names, even when it's a personal account. So that it's not like when you want to spell Ola, and you HORLA, you know, all those things. So you can be identified. And I think that's where the NIMC, the mediums, everybody comes into the picture. So when it's reasonable, it has a buy-in, and
perhaps whatever you are registering for, you put in your social media handles.
Thank you. And the motive is genuine. It's not like the government, people can see that it's not like the government wants to gag people.
Okay, seeing that social media is the bone of contention here. Should you say for us to say the federal government should partner with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter to checkmate this? Because in the US it's happening, and Mark Zuckerberg at a point was being drilled by the parliament. So should we have some of these partnerships?
We can have the buy-ins. Those are also stakeholders, and we can see that Twitter just released that they're banning every political news. So political adverts, sorry, they don't allow that. So things are going to be tighter, because like someone said, I'm not sure, I think it was Professor Wale Soyinka, that if the world is not careful, the third world war will be caused by social media, fake news. So we don't have to be reactive, we have to be proactive. We have to join, when people are doing something to make sure that this problem does not become a behemoth, that we join the fray and make sure that we also protect our country.
Absolutely, very important. Shijubomi Adebi Bennett, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.